I never thought I'd start going to the university cafe this often. The coffee wasn't good. The lighting made everyone look pale. But Professor Hale always sat there before her 9 a.m. lecture. Same corner, same gray cardigan, same half-empty mug she never finished. Maybe that was why I came. I'd tell myself I just liked the quiet, that I was reviewing notes, that it was coincidence. But every morning, I'd find myself glancing up, waiting for that soft clatter, her ring tapping the cup once before she opened her laptop. She was in her 40s, maybe mid-sharp features softened by tired eyes. The kind of woman who made silence feel like a full conversation. The first time she noticed me noticing her, she only said, "You're early again, Mr. Niles." "Guess I'm consistent," I said. "Consistency is underrated," she murmured, half smiling before turning back to her screen. That was it. But I thought about that smile all day. Some days she'd ask what I was reading. Other days, nothing at all. But somehow, her quiet was louder than anyone else's attention. I started memorizing small things. The sound of her throat clearing before she spoke. How she always lined up her pens perfectly even when she was late. Once, she caught me looking. "What?" she asked. "Nothing." Her eyebrow lifted slightly. "Then stop memorizing me, Mr. Niles." I laughed, awkwardly, spilling a bit of my coffee. She watched the spill spread across the table and handed me a napkin without another word. Her fingers brushed mine for just a second. The napkin ended up folded in my pocket all day. I didn't tell anyone about her. Not that there was much to tell. Just mornings filled with the hum of old jazz from the cafe speakers, her perfume faint in the air, and my own pulse trying not to be obvious. I'd write drafts of messages I never sent. Stupid things. "Coffee tomorrow? Do you always leave your mug unfinished? Do you ever get tired of being so composed?" Delete. Every time. Sometimes she'd talk about her students, or her research, or a place she once saw in New York. She never mentioned anyone waiting for her at home. And I never asked. Maybe we both preferred it that way. The not knowing, the half-light between what's proper and what's not. One morning, I came in late. Her usual seat was empty. My stomach dipped, an irrational drop, like missing a step in the dark. I ordered anyway, sat down anyway, told myself not to care. Then, as I opened my laptop, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You missed coffee today." I froze. Stared. The cafe felt too loud suddenly. Chairs scraping, espresso hissing. Before I could type a reply, another text came through. "My office hours are over at 6. If you're still curious about consistency, come ruin my evening." I looked up, half expecting her to be there, but she wasn't. Just her empty seat, mug turned upside down on the table, a faint ring where it had been. I typed, then erased, then typed again. "I'll bring better coffee." Sent. I didn't realize until then how quiet my hands were shaking. Her office smelled like rain and paper. I stood by the door longer than I should have, clutching 2 paper cups from the cafe downstairs. She looked up when I entered. "You actually came," she said, voice even, but softer than in class. "You invited me." She gestured to the chair across from her desk. I sat, careful not to knock over the stack of essays by her elbow. There was music playing faintly. Some old jazz tune she must have forgotten was still on. "I figured you were joking," she said. "I don't joke about coffee." That got a quiet laugh from her, the kind that didn't fully reach her mouth, but warmed the room anyway. We talked about nothing for a while. Deadlines. Books. How she couldn't stand modern poetry because it tries too hard to be misunderstood. Somewhere between her teasing and my silence, something in the air shifted, familiar, but heavier. When she reached for her cup, I noticed the faint tremor in her hand. Not nerves, exactly. Something else, restraint, maybe. She caught me watching again. Still memorizing me? I almost said no, but I didn't. Instead, I said, "You make it hard not to." Her eyes lingered on mine for a beat too long. Then she looked away. The conversation thinned out. The rain outside got louder. I watched droplets slide down her window, one catching the reflection of her face, still, unreadable, somewhere else entirely. She broke the silence first. You remind me of someone, she said. Should I be flattered? My son's friend, she murmured. He used to come over after school, always trying to make me laugh, always watching too closely. Her voice drifted, then stopped. She didn't meet my eyes. I nodded, though my throat felt tight. I'm guessing he didn't bring you coffee. No, she said, almost smiling. He just left one day. No goodbye. The way she said it, quiet, like she'd only just noticed the absence, made my chest ache. At 6:30, she finally stood, closing her laptop with a decisive click. I should grade these before I forget why I still do this job, she said. I stood too, hesitating. Want help? She looked at me like she wanted to say no or yes, but both would cost too much. You don't know what you're offering, Mr. Niles. Maybe not, I said, but I'm here anyway. For a second, she just watched me. That same too long silence between us, heavy with what neither of us dared name. Then, almost absently, she reached out and adjusted my collar, her fingertips brushing my neck. It wasn't a flirtation. Not exactly. More like a moment she shouldn't have allowed, and I shouldn't have wanted to last. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me, and maybe because I knew I shouldn't have let her. After that night, something between us changed, not in words, not in gestures, but in how silence started to mean something else. I still came to the cafe. She still sat by the window. But now, every glance felt deliberate. Every shared silence felt like it was hiding something we both agreed not to name. Some mornings, she'd nod when I walked in, and that was enough. Other mornings, she'd look up from her book, meet my eyes, then pretend not to. And then one morning, she didn't come at all. The lecture that day was off. She stumbled over words she never stumbled over. When our eyes met, hers slipped away too fast. After class, I waited, pretending to scroll my phone as she packed her bag. You okay? I asked quietly. She froze, then sighed. You shouldn't ask me that. Why not? Because you ask like you mean it. The words landed heavier than she probably intended. I didn't know what to say. She gave me a small, almost apologetic smile and walked past. Her sleeve brushed mine, barely. Enough to make me forget how to breathe. Later that week, I found her outside the faculty building, sitting on the steps with a thermos beside her. It was getting dark, the kind of gray light that makes everything softer, more forgiving. Skipped your cafe shift? She asked without looking up. Didn't feel like coffee today. Strange. A pause. You always feel like coffee. I sat beside her, leaving a safe space between us. We watched students hurry past, laughter echoing somewhere distant. Do you ever regret being here? I asked. She frowned slightly. Here. In this job. This city. Around people who keep looking at you like they want something from you. Her laugh was small, but sad. Always. But regret doesn't pay rent. She glanced sideways at me. And you? What do you want from me, really? The question hung there, too open, too dangerous. I swallowed. Maybe just another moment like this. She didn't answer. Her fingers tightened around the thermos lid, turning it once, twice. Then the door behind us creaked open. A colleague of hers, younger, all smiles, called her name. Margot, you're still here. Her whole body stiffened. She stood, fast. Yes, I was just. She looked at me, searching for a word. Talking to a student. The man nodded, oblivious, and went inside. But something in her expression changed, like the air went colder. I stood too, heart pounding for reasons I couldn't admit. You should go, she said softly, before someone else sees. Her voice wasn't angry. It was scared. I hesitated, every nerve screaming to say something, to stay, but I didn't. I turned to leave. She reached out, just for a second, fingertips catching the sleeve of my jacket. Not enough to stop me, just enough to let me feel it. When I looked back, her hand was already gone. A near confession, left unfinished, and a silence that said more than either of us dared. The semester started thinning out. Final papers, half-empty classes, the slow drift toward summer. But I kept finding her everywhere I didn't expect her to be. At the library steps. The copy room. The path behind the arts building. Always like she was trying not to be seen, and somehow, always by me. That afternoon, I found her sitting on a bench behind the faculty wing, shoes off, hair pinned loosely. It was late, sun low enough to turn everything gold, quiet enough to hear the rustle of leaves and far-off traffic. She didn't notice me at first. I almost turned away. Then she said, without looking up, "You're getting predictable, Mr. Niles." I smiled. Guess consistency's my flaw. Her lips curved, faintly. "You make it sound noble." I sat beside her, leaving that same careful space, close enough to feel her warmth, far enough to pretend it meant nothing. She was grading papers, red pen in hand. Every few seconds, she'd sigh, make a small note, cap the pen, uncap it again. "Rough batch?" I asked. "Always." She paused. "They all want to be understood, but they never say what they really mean." Her voice was quiet, but I knew she wasn't talking about essays. "Maybe they're afraid," I said. She turned to me, eyes steady. "Are you?" It felt like she'd been waiting to ask that for weeks. I could have said no. Should have. But I just looked away. "Yeah." A long silence followed, one that stretched out, thread-thin and trembling. Then she said it. "You shouldn't follow me like this." I blinked. "I don't." "You do." Her tone was even, but something trembled underneath. "You wait for me. You look for excuses. And I let you." Her voice cracked on the last word, small, barely there, but it split the air between us. "I don't want to ruin you," she said, almost to herself. I laughed quietly, not because it was funny, but because it hurt. "Then don't." "You think it's that simple?" "No," I said. "But you keep saying it like it's already over." She leaned back, closed her eyes. The sun caught the edge of her face, the kind of tired beauty that comes from knowing too much, from holding back too long. "Do you know what happens," she said slowly, "when a woman my age lets someone your age make her feel seen again?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. Her eyes opened, softer now, but wet around the edges. She starts remembering she used to be wanted. And then she hates herself for it. Something inside me gave way. I reached out, barely touching her wrist. She didn't pull away. Her pulse trembled beneath my thumb, fast and uneven. For a moment, everything in the world narrowed to that one point of contact. The noise, the sunlight, even my breath. Then she whispered, "Tell me what you want from me." And I couldn't. Not yet. Because whatever I said next would change everything. She didn't come to campus the next day, or the day after. Her office door was locked, blinds drawn. Her nameplate had a small note taped to it, "On personal leave." No explanation. No return date. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Maybe a conference, maybe a family visit. But when the weeks stretched into 2, something inside me started to ache in a way I didn't know how to name. I still went to the cafe every morning. Sat at our table. Ordered her usual drink. Black coffee, 1 sugar, never stirred. It got cold before I touched it. The barista stopped asking if I wanted it to go. By the 3rd week, I checked her department website. Her name was still listed. No updates. And then, one night, I got a text from an unknown number, again. "You should focus on your finals." No greeting. No name. But I knew the rhythm of her words too well to mistake them. I typed back, "Where are you?" 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Nothing after that. I found out from another student. She'd taken time off to handle family matters. A vague, polite phrasing that meant nothing and everything. When I pressed, they said, her son had some sort of accident. She went back home. Son. The word caught in my throat. I'd heard her mention him once, in passing. I never asked again. I didn't think I was supposed to. Now all I could think about was her voice that night. "You remind me of someone." The days blurred. I tried to study, tried to move on. But the strangest part wasn't missing her. It was the hollow shape her absence left behind. How every small thing still carried her shadow. The smell of coffee. The ring of a pen against ceramic. Even the silence before the rain. One afternoon, I walked past her office again. The blinds were still down. But something new sat by the door. a small box marked discard. Inside, old pens, paper clips, a worn thermos. Her thermos. I reached for it before I could think. My hand hovered, then stopped. Someone down the hall called my name. I turned, startled, and when I looked back, it felt wrong to take it. I left it there. That night, I drafted a message I didn't send. You were right. You ruin people quietly. I don't know what you're protecting me from. I still wait at the cafe. Delete, delete, delete. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. It was almost summer when I saw her again. Weeks had passed, long, heavy ones that smelled of exams and rain and unfinished thoughts. I was walking home from campus when I noticed someone sitting alone on the park bench across from the bus stop. Gray cardigan. Familiar stillness. For a second, I thought I was imagining her again. But then she looked up, and there she was, Professor Hale. She looked different. Tired in the way that makes you softer, not older. Her hair was pinned messily, eyes shadowed but kind. I stopped a few steps away, unsure if I should go closer. You're a hard person to find, I said. She gave a small, worn-out smile. That was the point. I didn't sit right away, just stood there, waiting for her to tell me to leave. When she didn't, I sat beside her. The air smelled of wet grass. Somewhere nearby, a child laughed, and it sounded like something that belonged to another life. I heard about your son, I said carefully. She nodded. He's fine. Stitches, some guilt. The kind that heals slower. A pause. He's the reason I left. I looked at her hands, folded neatly in her lap, still wearing that same thin silver ring. Because of me? Her laugh came out too fast. Don't flatter yourself. Then softer, partly. We sat in silence for a while. I watched a bus pull in, people stepping on, stepping off. The world kept moving, like it always does when yours feels stuck. Finally, she said, you were kind to me when I forgot how to be kind to myself. That's dangerous, you know. I turned to her. It didn't feel dangerous. It never does, she murmured. Until it's too late. Something in me cracked a little. So what now? You disappear again? Pretend it didn't happen. She looked at me. Not cold, not apologetic. Just honest. I can't be what you think I am, she said. And you shouldn't have to be the one who waits for me to figure that out. I wasn't waiting, I lied. She smiled. You were. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. A breeze moved between us, small, but enough to make her hair brush against my sleeve. Then she reached out, almost absently, and fixed the cuff of my jacket like she used to straighten her papers before class. A small, precise motion. Her hand lingered a second too long. Do you hate me for it? She asked. I shook my head. No, just wish you'd stayed long enough to say goodbye. Her eyes met mine. Tired, clear, searching. I'm saying it now, she whispered. And somehow that was enough. We sat there, side by side, not touching, not needing to. The bus came and went. The air cooled. When she finally stood, she gave a small, quiet okay, like she was answering a question I hadn't asked aloud. And I knew it was the right kind of ending. Not closure, just peace. A year passed before we saw each other again. Not by plan, just the kind of quiet timing life sometimes arranges when it's ready to circle back. I'd finished my degree, traded the campus for a small apartment near the river, started working at the bookstore across from the university. I didn't go to the cafe anymore, though I still walked past it sometimes, out of habit. The seat by the window was usually empty. Some mornings, at exactly 8:47 a.m., I'd catch myself glancing in anyway, half expecting to see her bend over her notes, stirring her untouched coffee. Old reflexes die quietly. It was late autumn when she came in. I was shelving a new stack of poetry books when I heard her voice, soft, deliberate, unchanged. Do you still recommend the bitter ones first? I turned, and there she was. Same cardigan. Same tired eyes that somehow made everything around her feel steadier. Only to people who can handle them, I said. She smiled. A real one this time, small but certain. Then maybe I can finally take your advice. We didn't rush it. We talked like old friends relearning a language. About books, about her son, doing better, she said. About how she'd started teaching again, part-time. When I walked her out, she stopped by the bench across the street, the one from that last conversation. She sat down, motioning for me to join. It was colder now, the air sharp enough to make every breath visible. She took a sip from the thermos in her hands. Black coffee. No sugar. Still consistent, I said. Some habits don't need fixing, she replied. Then, after a pause, you kept yours? I nodded. Just earlier mornings. We both laughed, a little awkward, a little easy. There was no confession this time. No grand apology or unspoken plea. Just two people sitting where they once broke something open and letting the world feel quiet again. She leaned back, exhaled slowly. You know, she said, I used to think ruin meant destruction. And now? She looked at me then, eyes warmer than they'd ever been. Now I think it just means change you can't undo. The wind caught a few leaves between us. I reached out instinctively, brushed one from her sleeve. She didn't pull away. For a moment, that was enough. Not passion, not regret, just the calm recognition of having both survived something tender and real. When she finally stood to leave, she looked down at me and smiled. 8:47 still your favorite time of day? Only when you're around, I said. She shook her head, laughing softly. Still terrible with boundaries. But the way she said it, gentle, almost fond, felt like forgiveness. Later, as I locked up the shop, I noticed 2 coffee cups on the counter. Mine half finished, hers empty. A small, ordinary detail. But it felt like a sentence finally finished.